Mayor Brandon Johnson is likely to face a much more hostile environment when he testifies before Congress than when he takes reporters' questions, as he did today.
Good morning, everyone.
Former Congressman Luis Gutierrez took part in hundreds of committee hearings during his 26 years on Capitol Hill.
I think the mayor is just too new and too ill-prepared to really go into this circus, because that is what it is going to be.
But the mayor's team is preparing him for his moment in the spotlight when he will be asked to defend Chicago's welcoming city ordinance, which prevents police from cooperating with ICE on immigration matters.
I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up for the people of Chicago, as I've always done. And I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I will certainly say that when I get there, who I am is who I will remain.
Johnson says he has reached out to former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, former Education Secretary Arnie Duncan, as well as Congressman Danny Davis, seeking advice.
This is about Chicago. This is not about, Brandon Johnson. I am part of a long legacy of leaders in this city and this state that have stood up for working people, and that's essentially what I'm prepared to do on March 5th.
I don't know that Mayor Johnson's going to be able to get that message across, given that this is a circus that is set up and an ambush that they're ready. I don't know if he's ready for that ambush.
Gutierrez believes whatever Johnson says to Congress could be used against him and Chicago and could lead to federal funds being withheld.
Boy. So we got to talk about woke Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who does not want anybody not from Chicago talking about Chicago, which is why we're going to keep talking about Chicago, okay? Because Chicago is on the verge of financial collapse, okay? We've already talked about the fact that they already had a credit downgrade, okay? The S&P Global Ratings downgraded Chicago's general obligation bond rating from BBB plus to BBB. Now, this decision was influenced by concerns over the city's 2025 budget, which S&P described as leaving, quote, a sizable structural budgetary imbalance. Additionally, in November 2024, the ratings agency placed Chicago's general obligation bonds on watch for a potential downgrade, citing a projected $982.4 million budget shortfall for 2025. Now, despite all this, woke Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to continue to drive the city into a worse financial situation under the disguise of infrastructure improvements, okay? The city council narrowly approved the $850+ million high-interest loan in order to fund infrastructure improvements to the city. However, the problem is that, first and foremost, this loan is not affordable, okay? It's going to cost a total of $2 billion when it's all said and done, okay, from an $850 million loan, okay? So they're going to end up paying in total $2 billion, okay, because the interest payments are ridiculous. Again, this is why you should never trust a progressive with your money, especially not your tax dollars, because they don't believe in budgeting. So I damn sure would never trust them with investing my money. That is the last thing I would ever trust a progressive with. So with that being said, Brandon Johnson here now has his $850 million slush fund that they claim they're going to use for infrastructure, but the truth is that he's probably going to use it for his progressive priorities, like, for example, taking care of the illegals, okay, and also trying to get the teachers union paid, the teachers union that he is technically on leave from. So what is going to happen is that he is going to lose this next election, and we're going to talk about why, because his approval rating is just humiliating at this point, right? Like, it's like literally so low that it's almost unbelievable, okay? We're going to talk about it. But he is probably going to rejoin the teachers union, okay, after he loses the election, and he will reap the benefit of the taxpayer dollars that he had to borrow in order to get the teachers union paid, okay? He'll be long gone, right, and he's going to make money. All his liberal friends are going to make money, and that's essentially the game here in Chicago.
Yeah. On the surface, it sounds great for Chicago. New money to repair crumbling streets, rusted light poles, bad bridges. But critics say while those fixes need to be made, the way the city plans to pay for it all is not. City Council narrowly approving an $830 million bond measure today. CBS Chicago political reporter Chris Ty is here to walk us through that decision.
Marie, there was a lot of talk of kicking cans down the road. It's a political jargon we hear a lot.
Yeah.
Supporters of this bond say we can't kick down the road repairs for our kids. Critics say we shouldn't kick the can down the road on paying for all of this to the next generation.
When my 5-year-old is 30, we will be paying $820 million over a period of 6 years on this very bond.
Both sides using the kids will pay for it argument at council.
We're not mortgaging the future of our children. In fact, we are building the roads that they're going to use.
The $830 million bond would go to repair city roads and bridges, city building renovations, new city vehicles, street lights, traffic signals, replacing lead service lines, as well as $1.5 million per alderman to use how they see fit. Doing nothing, supporters of the mayor's plan say would create chaos.
Potholes will grow bigger, vacant buildings will catch on fire, light poles will fall, and bridges could deteriorate beyond repair.
To be clear, no one in council argued to do nothing. Critics zeroing in, though, on the mechanics of payback. The $830 million bond will, in the end, cost the city $2 billion. The city choosing to pay interest-only payments through 2045, then begin paying off the principal. Critics wanted a bond half the size with a quicker payback to unburden future Chicagoans and prevent a further drop in the city's bond rating.
It gives the mayor a slush fund to reward people who vote for these ill-advised budgets.
This motion passes.
In the end, it passed 26-23. Supporters say it's a safety net for an unstable financial pipeline from a Trump-run Washington that's targeting cities like Chicago. And that the loudest critics are from wards near downtown, where upkeep is rarely an issue.
Maybe some aldermen have the luxury of putting off infrastructure maintenance, but our community needs these investments now.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Okay, so as Brandon Johnson continues to bankrupt Chicago and the taxpayers, he is facing an all-time low approval rating that is in the single digits. Yes, in the single digits. Single digits. And he was confronted on his disastrous approval rating by William J. Kelly, right? The best journalist in Chicago. Okay, I love this guy. He confronted Brandon Johnson on his disastrous numbers. And Brandon Johnson really didn't have much to say because there's not really much you can say in response to these facts.
Mayor Johnson, you keep saying that you're investing in people, but the people that I talk to tell me that you're investing in your cronies, that there's waste, fraud, abuse, that there's zero transparency. You haven't even shown a single reporter in this room your Gucci gift closet on the other side of that door. People are very,
just
very
a question.
angry.
Just a question.
I keep getting interrupted. I'm the only one. You know, people are very, very angry about this what they call a payday loan for you and your cronies to blow through. Your single-digit poll numbers.
All right, we need the question.
And the anger and the frustration that people are feeling towards their mistrust of you and the lack of transparency. Are you prepared, and your allies for that matter, in City Council, prepared to lose re-election over this payday loan?
We're going to continue to invest in people.
Thank you.
Well, you know, my follow-up question, if I don't know if you. Okay, so you know, you interrupt my question, you cut my mic. People tell me that that's contributing to your single-digit poll numbers. By the way, you should probably learn a lesson from one-term Lightfoot.
Okay, Mayor.
What percentage of this payday loan will you commit to potholes?
So it's not a payday loan, and the full investment is to improve the infrastructure for the people of Chicago.
So Mayor Johnson getting national scrutiny at the same time his approval ratings here in Chicago are falling.
Yeah, depending on the poll, he's either in the single digits or the teens, the lowest of any modern Chicago mayor. He doesn't have a lot of allies in Chicago beyond his backers, the group that founded him and made his political career possible, and that's the Chicago Teachers Union. But so far, he hasn't even been able to get the teachers the contract they want, despite many awkward efforts to do so. So, you know, Mayor Johnson will go to Washington, will go to this hearing.
Wow, embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. He's in the single digits. Nearly 80% of Chicagoans disapprove of Mayor Brandon Johnson, the new poll finds. Now, again, this is hilarious to me because Brandon Johnson keeps gaslighting the American people by claiming that, well, I'm fighting for the people and they agree with my agenda and I'm working on their behalf. Well, clearly they're not feeling that, right? Clearly they're not buying into whatever Brandon Johnson is selling here, okay? They're rejecting him at an 80+% clip. And I told you guys when this dude was elected, I said that Chicago is going to find out the hard way what the progressive utopia looks like. That he's going to run this city into the ground. You thought Lightfoot was bad? This dude is even worse. How did Chicago end up electing a worse lunatic? Well, again, it's because they voted for Brandon Johnson based off his race, his skin color, right? Because he's a black man, right? He's a brother, right? That's why they voted for him. And see, this is the thing I try to tell people about why black people need to move away from this. Okay, Brandon Johnson having such a disastrous approval rating, that makes it much harder in the future for black people who actually are competent and that can run a city, okay, that could possibly be good mayors to get elected, right? When you put people in positions of power based off their skin color and their race, what happens is that when they fail, okay, and it becomes obvious that they only were in positions because of their skin color and their race, you hurt black people in the future who want to run for mayor, who are qualified, who are competent, and who aren't progressive lunatics, right? So again, he's doing more harm to black people than good, especially when it comes to his support of illegal immigrants, in which this guy has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to support the illegals. This is part of the reason why Chicago is facing a financial disaster, is because they spent all the money on illegals. And now he has to answer before Congress, the GOP Congress, on obstructing the federal government from being able to enforce federal immigration laws. And when confronted about this, Brandon Johnson basically admitted that he's panicking, that he called on Jesus, right? He's calling on Jesus before he faces the Republicans in a week or so. And also on top of that, he says that he's going to double and triple down on his values, aka protecting illegal immigrants and funding illegal immigrants at the expense of Chicago taxpayers. Take a look.
You're getting ready for that March 5th hearing in Washington. Who did you call, or who have you called for advice on how?
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm calling on the name of Jesus. I mean, there are a number of people. I text Mayor Lightfoot. I texted Mayor Lightfoot a couple of days ago. We had a text with Arnie Duncan. He's had his share of hearings. There are a number of people. I've spoken to Congressman Davis, Congressman Jackson. Those just to name a few. I'm talking to everyone. This is about Chicago. This is not about, Brandon Johnson. I am part of a long legacy of leaders in this city and this state that have stood up for working people. And that's essentially what I'm prepared to do on March 5th, is to stand up for working people. The city of Chicago continues to lead the way.
We've seen across the country 2 sanctuary cities within the last 24 hours actually take the step to file a lawsuit against President Trump and the Department of Justice to try to prevent any sort of retaliation for their own welcoming city policies. I'm wondering what your take is on that, considering you're on the other end of a lawsuit from Washington, D.C.
Well, look, our welcoming city ordinance, as well as the complementary state law that the state of Illinois provides, ensures that our local law enforcement shows up in the most transparent and effective way. That we do not want any individuals who are undocumented or otherwise to have breakdown between their ability to communicate with law enforcement. As far as, our status, again, as a 40-year trajectory of being a welcoming city for immigrants from around the globe, whether they are Jewish or Chinese or Polish or Italian, Mexican, we're going to remain a welcoming city and hold to our values. Now, as far as, how cities decide to move, around litigation, that is obviously their prerogative. We have not made any rash decisions around how, we will move, but I will say this one thing for sure, is that I made a promise and a commitment to protect working people. And that's really what this moment requires. Because again, this administration is not just threatening the sensibility of our democracy, they're working to force people to surrender their humanity. And we're not gonna do that. You know, as this administration is working to defund public education, defund the HUD, to defund the Department of Justice, laying off public employees. Public employees have long been a pathway for working people to get to the middle class. We know that public employees are overwhelmingly women and people of color, particularly here in Chicago. So I know that's, you know, a very broad response, but you know, I just want to make sure that people understand that as a city that has been established by immigrants and migrants who were formerly enslaved to come to this city, to build the diversity of this city. It's the global capital of the world, and we're going to continue to show up in our very best.
Yeah, so woke man Brandon Johnson says, hey, we're going to continue to stand up for our values. Now, again, I find this phrase to be fascinating here because I've heard this before. I heard this from Ken Martin, now the head of the DNC, when confronted about Democrats and their support of the woke gender agenda, right? Where they support basically everything that the trans community wants, right? And how that is unpopular with the American people. His response was, well, we're going to stand up for our values, okay? And again, I find this phrase here, right, that is being thrown out by Democrats to be fascinating because what they're essentially telling the American people in the face of issues that the American people clearly disagree with Democrats on is that, you know what, screw you, middle finger, our values, the things that we believe in, the things that we stand for are the things that you stand against, right? This is what Democrats are openly saying. This is how they're responding to the issues that they're unpopular on. Well, we're just going to stand for our values, right? Really, really. So your values are taking care of illegal immigrants with taxpayer funds. Your values are pushing for children to have sex change operations. Your values are allowing biological boys to compete against girls in sports. These are your values, right? This is what you believe in? Really? So, you know, again, I just find that phrase there, that line to be fascinating, right? Because again, it's Democrats telling you, hey, this is who we care about, right? We are against the American people. This is what they're saying at their core. At their core, the values of the Democrat Party is antithetical to the rest of the country. So, hey, I'm excited for this hearing. I'm excited that all of these sanctuary city mayors are going to go before Congress. And we already know, yes, it's going to be very entertaining. They're going to have to defend it. And they're walking into a trap, right? They really are. Okay, I don't understand how they're going to be able to finesse defending, supporting illegal immigrants with taxpayer funds in their cities, right? And also trying to obstruct the federal government from enforcing federal laws, considering how 60% of the country believe that all illegal immigrants should be mass deported, right? I don't understand how do you argue against the will of the American people, right? This is what Democrats gonna do, but this is a genius move from the GOP because it basically puts the Democrat Party on full display, right? The extreme issues, the extreme stances that they have taken, it puts it on full display in Congress, and then they have to defend it. And they're gonna go in there and they're gonna defend it. They're gonna say, well, these are our values, right? Taking care of illegals, that's what we believe in, right? Putting the American people last, those are our values, right? Again, that is what they're going to end up saying, and I just don't think it's going to work out well for them. Yeah, Brandon Johnson, he better be praying because he's going to need Jesus. Right? He's going to need divine intervention to prevent himself from being completely and totally humiliated during this hearing. But then again, with his approval rating so far in the tank, he really doesn't have that much to lose, to be honest with you. I mean, I can't imagine this guy becoming more unpopular. I mean, is there such thing as like having negative approval, right? Is that a thing? Because Brandon Johnson's getting to the verge now of having zero approval, right? Literally nobody approving of this guy. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.